Sarah heard the crying sound right after the sun came up. It was quiet and weak, coming from behind the kitchen where she worked. She followed the sound to the big trash bins and stopped completely still because there, inside the dumpster wrapped in a yellow blanket, was a brand new baby with blue lips who could barely breathe. She pulled the tiny child out and held the baby close, trying to warm up the little body. And that's exactly when Mr. Benjamin Carter's car pulled into the driveway. He got out of his car and saw his housekeeper standing by the dumpster holding a baby he had never seen before. And in that second everything he thought he knew about her broke into pieces like glass. Benjamin Carter had ended his business trip to London early so he could surprise his 8-year-old daughter Sophie before her Friday school concert. The September morning was cool and peaceful. He drove onto his big property at 6:30 in the morning, which was earlier than anyone expected him to be there, and then he saw her standing there. Sarah Davis, his housekeeper who had worked for him for 3 years, was standing near the trash bins behind the kitchen holding a screaming newborn baby wrapped in yellow cloth. Benjamin's whole body became stiff and frozen. "What in the world is this?" he said, but it came out more like a shout. Miss Sarah spun around with her eyes wide open, showing shock and relief at the same time. "I didn't know you were coming home today," she said. "Whose baby is that?" Benjamin's voice was cold like ice. Sarah stepped toward him with the baby pressed against her chest. "Sir, please just let me explain," she said. "Explain," he said, already moving closer while his mind raced through impossible ideas. "Did you have a baby? Is this yours? How long has this been going on?" "It's not mine," she answered. "Then whose is it?" His voice got louder and sharper like a knife. "Do you understand what you've done? My daughter lives here. I trusted you," he said. The baby screamed even louder, as if it could feel how tense and angry everyone was. Marcus, the man who worked as the security guard for the property, appeared from the side door with his hand on his walkie-talkie radio. "Mr. Carter, is everything okay?" he asked. Benjamin didn't take his eyes off Sarah. "I don't know yet," he said. Sarah's hand shook and trembled. "Please, sir, just read the note. It's not what you think. This is about your family, not mine," she said. Benjamin froze completely. "What did you just say?" he asked. Sarah's voice broke and cracked as tears filled up her eyes. "His name is Tommy," she said. "He's your nephew, and 3 days ago his mother left him in that dumpster to die." Benjamin's legs went weak and wobbly. "My nephew," the words barely came out of his mouth. "Robert's been dead for 6 months," he said, talking about his brother. Sarah pulled a wrinkled, crumpled piece of paper from her pocket and her hands were shaking. "Jessica left this note," she said. Benjamin took it from her. The handwriting was messy and jagged and desperate looking. "I can't do this alone. Robert's gone, the money's gone, I'm gone. Please save him. Don't let them take him. I'm sorry, Jay." He read it 2 times before it started to make sense in his brain. "She was pregnant." His voice broke and cracked. "Nobody knew," Sarah said. Tears streamed down Sarah's face like little rivers. "She had the baby all alone 3 days ago. She left him in that dumpster to die." Benjamin stared at the baby, which was his brother's son. "Where is she now?" he asked. "I don't know." Sarah's voice cracked. "Her apartment is empty. Her phone is turned off. I've been searching everywhere, like hospitals and shelters, but nothing." 3 days. Benjamin's face went pale white. "You've had him for 3 days. You were in London and the note said not to let them take him, so I used everything I had, my rent money, which was $527. I've been hiding him in my room because I was so terrified and scared." "Daddy," a small voice said. Benjamin froze. Sophie stood in the kitchen doorway, still wearing her pajamas and holding her stuffed bunny rabbit. "Sophie, go back inside," he said. "Is the baby okay?" Her voice was so small and scared. "Did you tell Daddy?" she asked, looking at Sarah. Benjamin's heart felt like it stopped beating. "Sophie," he said, and knelt down slowly. "What are you talking about, sweetie?" She looked at Sarah, then back at him. "I've been helping her, Daddy. At night after you tuck me into bed, I go to Sarah's room and help feed the baby." The air left Benjamin's lungs completely. His 8-year-old daughter had been sneaking out of bed caring for a baby he didn't even know existed while he was halfway across the world, completely blind to what was happening. He stood up with his voice barely holding together. "Marcus, pull up the security camera videos right now," he said. Inside the small security office, Marcus's fingers moved across the computer keyboard. "September 18th at 2:47 in the morning," he said. The screen came to life, flickering. A car rolled through the back gate, moving slow, almost like a ghost. A woman stepped out of the car. Benjamin leaned closer to the screen. "Jessica," he whispered. She looked hollow and empty, like she wasn't really there anymore, like a zombie. She opened the back door of her car and pulled out something wrapped in cloth and walked toward the dumpster. Benjamin's throat closed up tight. She lifted the lid of the dumpster and placed the bundle inside, then stood there, staring down at it for a long time. Then Marcus's phone rang, cutting through the silence like scissors. He answered and listened, and his face went white as a sheet. "Mr. Carter," his voice was tight and squeezed. "You need to take this call. He handed Benjamin the phone. Mr. Carter, a woman's voice said, sounding professional but strained. This is St. Catherine's Hospital. We have Jessica Carter here. She was brought in 3 days ago after she took too many pills trying to hurt herself. She's alive but barely. You need to come right now. Benjamin's hand gripped the phone so hard it almost cracked in half. We're on our way, he said. He hung up and looked at Sarah, at Sophie, at the baby, and realized everything he thought he knew about his life had just been torn apart and ripped into pieces. But the worst part was he still didn't know the whole truth about what Jessica had done that night or why she did it. The car was silent and quiet except for the baby's soft breathing sounds. Benjamin drove the car. Sarah sat in the back seat with the baby in her arms. Sophie squeezed in between them with her small hand resting on Sarah's knee. Nobody spoke for the first 10 minutes of the drive. Benjamin's knuckles were white on the steering wheel and his mind raced through everything he should have done differently and everything he had missed. Mr. Carter, Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. I need to tell you something. He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. The night I found him, she said. He wasn't crying at first. He was so cold he couldn't even make a sound. Benjamin's jaw got tight and tense. I thought he was already dead, Sarah continued with her voice breaking. But then I felt his little chest move just barely and I ran. I wrapped him in my coat and ran to my room and turned the heat up as high as it would go. Sophie looked up at her. You saved him, she said. I prayed, Sarah whispered. I prayed harder than I've ever prayed in my whole life. I said, God, please don't let this baby die, not like this, not alone. Benjamin's throat burned. Why didn't you call 911? His voice came out rougher and meaner than he meant it to. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Because I was scared, she said finally. Scared they'd take him away, scared they'd blame me, scared nobody would believe that I was just trying to help. Benjamin pulled onto the highway. The hospital was 20 minutes away. I should have trusted you. The words felt like broken glass coming out of his mouth. I looked at you and thought the worst thing. I didn't even give you a chance to explain. You were scared too, Sarah said softly. That's not an excuse, he said. Sophie's small voice cut through the tension in the car. Daddy, is Aunt Jessica going to be okay? Benjamin's hands got tighter on the wheel. I don't know, sweetheart. Is she sick? Sophie asked. Yes, very sick, he answered. In her body or her heart? Sophie asked. Benjamin's eyes burned with tears. His 8-year-old daughter understood more than he'd given her credit for. Her heart, he said quietly. Her heart is very, very sick. Sophie looked down at the baby. But her heart made him so. Part of her heart is still good, right? Sarah's tears fell silently down her cheeks. Benjamin couldn't answer the question. They drove past exit signs and strip malls and gas stations with normal life moving around them while their world was falling apart and breaking. What if she doesn't want to see us? Sarah asked suddenly. What if she's angry I didn't let the baby go? Then we'll deal with it, Benjamin said. But she needs to know he's alive. She needs to see that. The hospital sign appeared ahead saying St. Catherine's Medical Center 2 miles. Benjamin took the exit and as they pulled into the parking lot, one thought burned through his mind louder than anything else. What if they were already too late? What if Jessica had given up completely? And what if seeing this baby alive and breathing and safe was the one thing that could either save her or destroy her forever? The place where they kept people with very sick hearts and minds smelled like cleaning chemicals and sadness. A nurse led them down a long hallway and her shoes squeaked against the shiny floor. She's been very quiet, the nurse said softly. Hasn't spoken a single word since she woke up. They stopped at room 247. The nurse knocked gently, then pushed the door open. Jessica sat in a chair by the window, so thin and skinny that Benjamin barely recognized her. Her hair hung down limply around her face and her hospital gown was sliding off her shoulders. She didn't turn around when they came into the room. Jessica, Benjamin's voice came out rough and scratchy. She flinched like someone had poked her. Sarah stepped forward slowly with the baby in her arms. Jessica, it's Sarah. I found him 3 days ago. He was cold, but I warmed him up. I kept him safe just like you asked in the note. Jessica's shoulders got tense and tight. Then she saw the baby's reflection in the window glass. Her whole body started shaking. No, the word came out broken. He's supposed to be gone, she said. Jessica, he's okay, Sarah said. I left him there so he wouldn't suffer. Jessica's voice cracked. So he wouldn't grow up knowing his mother wanted to die. Benjamin moved closer. Jessica, look at me, he said. She shook her head. I can't, she said. Every time I look at him, all I see is Robert, your brother, the man you left behind and abandoned. The words hit Benjamin like a punch in the stomach. You cut him off when he needed you most, Jessica whispered. And then he died and I was pregnant and I had nobody. She finally turned around and her face was hollow and empty with her eyes swollen and red from crying. I went to your mother 3 months ago and told her I was pregnant and begged for help. Her voice dropped lower. She said, handle it privately. The Carter name can't afford another embarrassment. Benjamin's blood went cold. So I did, Jessica continued. I had the baby alone. I Lived in my car for 2 weeks, and when I looked at that baby and felt nothing, no love at all, I brought him to the one person I thought might care. She looked at Sarah. And you did care, didn't you? Sarah's tears fell silently. He needs you, Jessica, she whispered. He needs his mother. I'm not a mother. Jessica's voice shattered into pieces. I'm broken. Why else would I leave him in a dumpster? The baby moved and stirred and started to cry. Jessica covered her ears and started rocking back and forth. Make it stop, please, make it stop, she said. Benjamin knelt down in front of her chair. You're right, he said. I failed Robert the first. Let my pride kill my brother. His voice broke. But you didn't fail this baby. You brought him to someone who could save him. That was brave. Jessica's hand slowly dropped from her ears. Her eyes drifted over to the baby. He looks like Robert, she whispered. Sarah took a step forward. Do you want to hold him, she asked. Jessica's hands trembled and shook. She opened her mouth to answer, and suddenly the door burst open with a bang. Eleanor Carter stood there in the doorway. Benjamin's mother, who was perfectly dressed with perfect makeup. Her eyes looked around the room and landed on the baby, then on Jessica. What, she said coldly, is going on here? Eleanor's high heels clicked against the hospital floor as she stepped inside. Her eyes moved from Jessica to the baby, then to Benjamin. So it's true, she said, and her voice was calm, too calm. Robert's widow had a child and kept it hidden. Benjamin stood up slowly. Mother, don't, he said. She held up one hand to stop him from talking. I received a very disturbing call from the hospital. Imagine my shock when they told me Jessica was here alive with a baby. Jessica shrank back in her chair, getting smaller. You knew, Benjamin said quietly. 3 months ago she came to you for help. Eleanor's face didn't change at all. I offered her practical advice, she said. You turned her away, he said. I suggested she handle the situation privately, as any reasonable person would, Eleanor said. Sarah's arms tightened around the baby. She was pregnant and sad, and she needed family, Sarah said. Eleanor's cold eyes shifted to Sarah, measuring her. And who are you to speak on family matters, she asked. She's the one who saved him, Benjamin said, and his voice was hard now. When Jessica left him to die, Sarah used her last dollar to keep him alive. Eleanor's lips pressed into a thin line. Left him where exactly, she asked. In a dumpster, Jessica whispered with her voice barely able to be heard. Behind the kitchen. I left my son in a dumpster because I had nowhere else to go. The room went completely silent. Eleanor stared at her, and for just one moment, just a flicker, something passed across her face, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. Then it's fortunate someone found him, Eleanor said coolly. Now we can arrange proper care, a private adoption, very discreet and secret. The child will have a good life and Jessica can get the help she clearly needs. No, Benjamin's voice cut through the room like a sharp blade. Eleanor turned to him. Excuse me, she said. He's not being adopted out. He's Robert's son. He's family, Benjamin said. Benjamin, be reasonable, his mother said. I'm done being reasonable. His voice rose and got louder. I'm done protecting the Carter name while people suffer. Robert died because I cared more about our image and reputation than my own brother. I won't make that mistake again. Eleanor's jaw tightened. You're being emotional, she said. I'm being human, he answered. Sophie, who had been silent this whole time, stepped forward and her small voice filled the space. Grandma, why don't you love us, she asked. Eleanor froze completely still. Sophie, that's not, she started to say. You didn't help Aunt Jessica when she was sad, Sophie continued. You didn't help the baby. You only care about our last name. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. But names don't hug you, people do. Eleanor looked at her granddaughter, and for the first time since she'd come into the room, her mask cracked just a little bit. Sophie, you don't understand, she said. I understand that Sarah loves us more than you do, Sophie said. The words hung in the air like smoke. Eleanor's face went pale. Benjamin put his hand on Sophie's shoulder and looked at his mother. She's right, he said. And until you can see that you're not welcome around this child. Eleanor's eyes went wide with shock. Benjamin, you can't possibly, she said. I just did, he answered. For a long moment Eleanor stood there silent, with her perfect appearance finally cracking at the edges. Then she turned on her heel and walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Jessica looked up at Benjamin with her face wet with tears. You just lost your mother because of me, she said. No, Benjamin said quietly. I just found my family. But as he said those words, his phone buzzed in his pocket. A text message from a number he didn't know. He opened it and his blood turned to ice. The message was simple, only 4 words. She's not the only one. Benjamin stared at his phone screen. She's not the only one. His heart pounded in his chest like a drum. What is it? Sarah asked. Benjamin looked up. Jessica was watching him from her chair, and Sophie stood close to Sarah with one hand resting on the baby's blanket. I just got a text, he said slowly, from a number I don't recognize. What does it say? Sarah asked. He held up the phone so Sarah could see it. Her face went pale white. Jessica's eyes got wide. Wait, what does that mean? She asked. I don't know. Benjamin's mind raced. Do you know anyone else who knew about the baby? Jessica shook her head back and forth. Nobody. I didn't tell anyone. That was the whole point. I was too ashamed. Benjamin looked at the message. Again, then at Jessica. Think carefully, he said. The night you left him, did anyone see you? Anyone at all? Jessica's face crumpled as she tried to remember. I don't think so, she said. I was barely there. I drove up, put him down and left. It was dark. There was no one around. What about before that? Benjamin asked. At the hospital when you had the baby. I used my old name before I got married, Jessica said. Jessica Monroe. Nobody knew who I really was. Benjamin's jaw tightened. Then who sent this message? He asked. The room fell silent and quiet. Sophie's small voice broke through the silence. Maybe someone was trying to help, she said. Benjamin looked down at his daughter. What do you mean, sweetheart? He asked. Maybe someone saw Aunt Jessica and wanted to make sure the baby was okay, so they're telling you now. Sarah nodded slowly. She might be right, she said. If someone knew Jessica was in trouble, maybe they've been watching and waiting to see if the baby survived. Benjamin's phone buzzed. Again with another text. Check the hospital records. September 15th. Labor and delivery. You'll understand. His hands trembled and shook as he typed back. Who is this? 3 little dots appeared showing someone was typing, then they disappeared. Then one final message came through. Someone who should have spoken up sooner. I'm sorry. Benjamin looked at Jessica. September 15th. That's when you had the baby, right? She nodded with tears streaming down her face. Did anything happen that day? Anything unusual or strange? Jessica's breath caught in her throat. There was a nurse, she said. She stayed with me the whole time because I was alone. She kept asking if I had anyone to call. I told her no. I told her I had nobody. Do you remember her name? Benjamin asked. She didn't wear a name tag, Jessica said. Or maybe she did and I just don't remember. I was so tired, so empty inside. Benjamin pulled up the phone number and tried calling it. It rang once, then a recorded message played. The number you have dialed is not in service. He looked at Sarah, at Jessica, at Sophie. Someone knows what happened, he said. And they're trying to tell us something. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. What if there's another baby? She said. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Jessica's face went white as snow. No, that's not possible, she said. I only had one baby. Not yours, Sarah said carefully. But what if someone else left a baby that night? What if someone else was desperate and scared like you were? Benjamin's mind spun in circles. Jessica covered her mouth with her hand. Oh God, she whispered. There was a girl in the hallway, young, maybe 17 years old. She was crying all alone. The nurse went to help her after she finished with me. Benjamin's blood ran cold through his veins. What happened to her? He asked. I don't know, Jessica said. I left before morning. I couldn't stay there. Benjamin looked at the text again. She's not the only one. His phone buzzed one more time, but this time it was a photo. He opened it and his heart stopped beating. It was a picture of a hospital baby bed, completely empty, with a handwritten note taped to the side that said, "Please forgive me, I can't do this," signed with the letter L. Benjamin showed the photo to Sarah and her hand flew up to her mouth. Jessica leaned forward from her chair, squinting at the screen, and when she saw it she went completely still. That's the same hospital, she whispered. That's the same floor I was on. Benjamin's hand shook. When was this picture taken? He asked. He checked the information on the photo and his stomach dropped. September 15th at 11:47 at night. The same exact night Jessica had her baby. Sarah's voice was barely able to be heard. There was another baby, she said. Benjamin looked at her. And someone took this picture. Someone knew about it. But why wait 3 days to tell anyone? Jessica asked with her voice rising. If there was another baby, why didn't they? She stopped talking and her face crumpled. Because no one reported it, she said quietly. Just like no one reported mine. The truth settled over them like ice-cold water. 2 women, 2 babies, both left behind on the same night. And no one had said a single word about it. Benjamin's phone rang and he answered it immediately. Mr. Carter, a woman's voice said, older and shaking. My name is Diane Porter. I'm a nurse at County General Hospital. I sent you those messages. Benjamin's heart beat faster. Where's the baby? He asked. The one in the photo. Silence on the other end of the phone. Miss Porter, where is the baby? Benjamin said louder. I don't know. Her voice broke into pieces. The girl, she was 17. She had the baby all alone. No family, no identification card. She left the baby in the little bed and disappeared before the morning nurses came around. And you didn't report it? Benjamin asked. I tried. Diane's voice cracked. I told my supervisor. She said the girl probably came back for the baby during shift change, that it happens sometimes. She told me not to make a fuss, not to create paperwork for nothing. Benjamin's jaw clenched tight. So you just let it go? He said. No. Diane was crying now. I checked the security camera videos myself. I saw the girl leave alone with empty hands. I saw someone else come in 20 minutes later. A man. He took the baby and walked out like it was nothing, like it was normal. Sarah grabbed Benjamin's arm. Did you see his face? She asked. No. Diane said. He wore a hood over his head, but I have the video footage. I saved it before they could delete it. They tried to delete it. Benjamin's voice went cold. The hospital doesn't want this getting out, 2 abandoned babies in one night. Do you know what that would do to their reputation? Jessica stood up slowly with her legs shaking, so they covered it up, she said. I'm so sorry, Diane whispered through her tears. I should have done more. I should have called the police, but I was scared of losing my job, and then I saw the news about your nephew, about your housekeeper saving him, and I realized you might have been able to save the other one too. Benjamin closed his eyes. Send me the footage, everything you have right now, he said. Okay, Diane said, but Mr. Carter, there's something else you need to know. What is it? Benjamin asked. The girl, before she left, she wrote something on the whiteboard in her room, just 2 words. Benjamin's heart pounded like thunder. What did she write? He asked. Diane's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Help me, she wrote. Help me. The phone line went dead and silent. Benjamin looked at Sarah, at Jessica, at Sophie standing there with her small hand on the baby's blanket. And he realized something that made his blood run cold. Someone had taken that second baby on purpose, and if they didn't find him soon, they might never find him at all. His phone buzzed and the video footage came through. Benjamin opened it with shaking hands, and what he saw made everything worse because the man in the hood, he wasn't a stranger. Benjamin had seen him before. Benjamin hit the play button on the video. The footage was grainy and black and white with a timestamp that said September 15th at 11:52 at night. A figure came into the hospital room. With a hood pulled low over his head, moving quickly but not running, he walked straight to the baby bed, looked down, then lifted the baby out with both hands, cradled it against his chest and walked out. The whole thing took 43 seconds. Benjamin rewound it and paused it on the moment when the man's face turned slightly toward the camera, just for a split second, but it was enough. Sarah leaned closer to see. Do you know him? She asked. Benjamin's mouth went dry. That's George, he said. Who's George? Sarah asked. My driver. Benjamin's voice came out hollow and empty. He's worked for me for 8 years. The room went completely silent. Jessica's hands gripped the arms of her chair tightly. Your driver took a baby from the hospital, she said. I don't understand. Benjamin's mind raced through thoughts. Why would he do that? And then it hit him like lightning. George's daughter. 3 months ago, George had asked for time off from work and said his daughter was going through something, a family emergency. Benjamin had said yes without asking any questions because he never asked questions. He just signed papers and moved on with his life. His daughter, Benjamin whispered, she's 17, she got pregnant last year. He was so upset and devastated. He said she was too young, that her life would be ruined. Sarah's face went pale. You think she's the girl who had the baby that night? She asked. I don't know, Benjamin said, but if she was. He stopped talking and his hands were shaking now. If she was and George knew she couldn't keep the baby, maybe he thought he was helping her. Maybe he took the baby to give it to someone else. Or maybe he left it somewhere, Jessica said quietly. Just like I did. The words hung heavy in the air like storm clouds. Benjamin looked at the baby in Sarah's arms. This tiny nephew who had almost died because the people who were supposed to love him had failed him. And now there was another one, another child, another desperate mother, another man making a terrible choice. We have to find him, Benjamin said, and his voice was steady now and determined. We have to find George, and we have to find that baby. Sophie tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, what if the baby's already gone? She asked. Benjamin knelt down and looked his daughter right in the eyes. Then we'll make sure people know what happened, he said, so it never happens again. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it, because the truth was darker than that. People had known. The hospital knew, the supervisor knew, Diane knew, and they'd all chosen to stay silent, just like he'd chosen silence when Robert needed him, just like Eleanor had chosen silence when Jessica begged for help. Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. Benjamin, what if George's daughter is still out there? She said. What if she's like Jessica, alone and scared, thinking she has no one? Benjamin stood up slowly. Then we find her too, he said. He pulled out his phone and dialed George's number. It rang and rang and rang. Then it went to voicemail. George, it's Benjamin, he said into the phone. I need you to call me back immediately. It's urgent. He hung up and looked at the others. We're going to his house right now, he said. Jessica stood up with her legs still shaky and weak. I'm coming with you, she said. Jessica, you need to rest, Benjamin said. No, her voice was firm and stronger than it had been all day. That girl, whoever she is, she's me, and if there's any chance I can help her, I have to try. Benjamin looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something he hadn't seen before, which was strength. Sarah nodded. We all go together, she said. They walked out of the hospital as a group, and as they reached the parking lot, Benjamin's phone buzzed one more time. A text from George's phone, but the words weren't George's. Please don't come looking for us, it's already too late. Benjamin's car raced through the streets fast. George lived 20 minutes outside the city in a small house on a quiet street with a white fence, very normal and forgettable. Nobody spoke during the drive. When they pulled up to the house, it was completely dark. Benjamin turned off the car engine. Stay here, he said. No, Sarah was already unbuckling her seatbelt. We go together. They walked to the front door and Benjamin knocked. Nothing happened. He knocked again, harder this time, still nothing. George Benjamin's voice echoed down the empty street. I know you're in there, open the door. Silence fell over everything. Then a sound came from inside, faint crying, but not a baby, it was a girl. Benjamin's heart stopped. George, I'm not leaving, he called out. Either you open this door or I'm calling the police. A long pause happened, then the lock clicked. The door opened slowly and George stood there. He was in his mid-50s with gray hair, looking disheveled and messy, with eyes red and swollen. He looked completely broken. Mr. Carter, he whispered, you shouldn't be here. Where's your daughter? Benjamin asked. George's face crumpled. Upstairs, he said. And the baby? Benjamin asked. George's knees buckled and he grabbed the door frame to hold himself up. He's gone, George said. Sarah gasped out loud. What do you mean gone? Benjamin's voice was sharp. I tried. George's voice cracked. I swear to God I tried, but she couldn't keep him. She's 17, no money, no support. I thought I was protecting her. So what did you do? Benjamin asked, stepping closer. I took him to a church. George's tears fell freely now. St. Mary's, 2 towns over. I left him in a basket at the back door during Sunday morning service. I thought someone would find him, someone who could give him a real good life. Jessica pushed past Benjamin. When she demanded, when did you leave him? This morning, George sobbed. Right after dawn. Sarah's eyes went wide. That was hours ago, she said. Did anyone find him? I don't know. George sobbed harder. I drove away. I couldn't watch. I couldn't. Benjamin pulled out his phone and started dialing. What church? He asked. Which one exactly? St. Mary's on Oakwood Street, George said. But Mr. Carter, I already called them an hour ago. They said no one found a baby. They checked everywhere. Benjamin froze in the middle of dialing. Then where is he? Benjamin asked. The question hung in the air like thick smoke. From upstairs the crying got louder and a girl's voice came down, broken and desperate. Daddy, where's my baby? She cried. Please, where's my baby? George covered his face with his hands. She didn't want to give him up, he said. I made her. I told her it was the only way, and now he's gone and I don't know where he is, and she's... He couldn't finish the sentence. Jessica moved past him and headed for the stairs. Jessica, wait, Benjamin started to say, but she was already climbing. She reached the top and pushed open a bedroom door. A girl sat on the floor, thin and pale, rocking back and forth with her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold all the pieces together. She looked up when Jessica came in. Their eyes met and Jessica saw herself. She dropped to her knees in front of the girl. I'm Jessica, she said softly, and 3 days ago I left my baby in a dumpster because I thought he'd be better off without me. The girl's eyes got wide. But he wasn't. Jessica continued with her voice breaking. He needed me, and your baby needs you too, so we're going to find him together. Do you hear me? We're going to bring him home. The girl's face crumpled up. What if we're too late? She asked. Then we'll face it together, Jessica whispered. But I don't think we are, because someone's been watching over these babies, someone who won't let them disappear. She took the girl's hands in hers. What's your name? Jessica asked. Emma, the girl whispered. Emma, when's the last time you prayed? Jessica asked. Emma shook her head. I don't know if God hears people like me. He does, Jessica said. I promise you he does. Downstairs Benjamin's phone rang and he answered it. Mr. Carter, a woman's voice said, unfamiliar. My name is Father Michael from St. Mary's. We just found something unusual in our donation box. Benjamin's heart pounded hard. What did you find? He asked. A baby boy wrapped in a hospital blanket, the voice said. He's safe. But Mr. Carter, what? Benjamin asked quickly. There's a note with him. It has your phone number on it. They found him at St. Mary's an hour later. Father Michael met them at the door. He was an older man with kind eyes and gentle hands. He led them to his office, and there, sleeping in a makeshift cradle made from a donation box lined with soft blankets, was a baby boy. Emma ran to him and dropped to her knees and lifted him into her arms and sobbed. Not from sadness this time, but from relief, from joy, from something she thought she'd lost forever. I'm sorry, she whispered into his tiny ear. I'm so sorry, baby. Mama's here now. Mama's here. George stood in the doorway with tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, he said, to no one and everyone. I thought I was protecting her. I thought you were scared, Benjamin said quietly. We all were. Jessica sat beside Emma on the floor and put her arm around the girl's shoulders. It's going to be okay, she whispered. You're not alone anymore. Emma looked at her. How did you survive it? She asked. The shame, the feeling like you ruined everything. Jessica smiled through her tears. I didn't, she said. Not alone anyway, but then I met people who saw me, really saw me, and they didn't let me disappear. She looked at Sarah. Sarah, still holding baby Tommy, knelt down beside them. You're both mothers, she said softly, broken, scared, beautiful mothers, and these babies, they don't need perfect, they just need you there, present, trying, loving them even when it's hard. Sophie stepped forward and looked at both babies. They're so small, she whispered, but they made all of us bigger. Benjamin pulled his daughter close to him. She was right. These two tiny boys who had been abandoned and almost lost had torn open every wall he'd built and every lie he'd told himself about what family really meant. Father Michael cleared his throat gently. What happens now? He asked. Benjamin looked at George, at Emma, at Jessica, at Sarah holding his nephew. Now he said slowly, "We build something better." 3 months later the Carter property looked completely different. Jessica lived in the guest house looking healthy and working as a helper and counselor for new mothers. Emma and her son lived there too, finishing her last year of high school online while George helped take care of the children. Sarah had her own cottage on the property that was renovated and beautiful with a nursery where baby Tommy slept safely every single night. And Benjamin, he had cut his work travel by 70% and started a foundation with one mission, which was that no mother should ever feel so alone that leaving her child feels like the only option. They called it the Tommy and Daniel Foundation, named after the 2 boys who almost disappeared. On a Sunday morning in December they all gathered in the south garden. Sophie sat on the grass between the 2 babies, making them giggle and laugh. Jessica and Emma talked quietly on the bench, sharing the kind of stories only they could understand. George stood nearby watching his daughter laugh for the first time in many months. Sarah sat beside Benjamin. "You did it," she said softly. "You built a family." "We did it," Benjamin corrected her. "You showed me how." "No," Sarah smiled. "God showed you. I just didn't let you look away." Benjamin looked around at all the people scattered across his lawn. Broken people, messy people who had made terrible choices and somehow found grace and forgiveness anyway. "Do you think they'll be okay?" he asked. Sarah watched Sophie lift baby Tommy into her lap. "I think they already are," she said. And as the December sun warmed their faces, Benjamin realized something he'd never understood before. Wealth wasn't what you kept, it was what you gave away when someone needed it most. Power wasn't control, it was kneeling down when someone was too broken to stand. And family wasn't about blood, it was about showing up again and again and again, even when it cost you everything, especially then.